Chapter 1. The beginning of the break. The late autumn afternoon in Maplebridge, Massachusetts, was covered with the brittle yellow of fallen maple leaves. Sarah Miller stood by the living room window, clutching a coffee cup that had long gone cold. On the table sat the divorce papers in a brown envelope, something that did not seem to belong in this house yet dominated the room. She had not signed yet. The name Miller still rested on the doormat at the front door, still framed in the wedding photo above the fireplace. But everything was cracked. In the kitchen, the dishwasher hummed quietly. On the refrigerator hung Emma's drawing of a Thanksgiving turkey, handprint feathers painted in watercolors, round bead-like eyes glued on. Emma was 8, a third grader, and every time Sarah looked at that drawing she felt both comforted and reminded. She had to be strong. But she could not forget that her daughter's heart was caught in the middle of an adult war. The doorbell rang softly. Sarah startled. It was not David. She knew he would be at his office by now, 4 miles away in a glass and steel tower. She opened the door. The mailman handed her another envelope. From the office of Grant Law. Sarah signed for it, her hand trembling slightly. She placed it on the table next to the divorce papers and drew in a deep breath. No more running. 2 weeks earlier, on a rainy Thursday night, Sarah had found out David had claimed he had a dinner with clients. She believed him. Or perhaps she did not want to think otherwise until his laptop lit up on the kitchen counter, the screen unlocked. A notification slid across the corner. See you at Beacon Loft, 7:30. Don't forget the wine. M. On his Google Calendar, an event titled Client Dinner listed a different restaurant, nowhere near Beacon Loft, a luxury downtown apartment building. Sarah's throat went dry, like swallowing sand. She opened the email app but froze. This was an invasion of privacy, yes, but the instinct honed from years of unease in her marriage screamed at her to look. She did not read further. She just snapped a photo of the notification with her phone, closed the laptop, and stood staring at her own reflection in the darkened oven glass, her eyes red. She pressed her palm against Emma's turkey drawing, as though the child's art could anchor her to reality. That night, David came home late, his shirt faintly perfumed with something unfamiliar. When Sarah asked him directly, he laughed, avoiding her eyes. You are being paranoid. That was a private dinner meeting with a client. She held up the screenshot. The room froze. David's face darkened, then he shot back like a trained lawyer. You had no right to snoop through my computer. That is a place I rent for confidential meetings. This is ridiculous. The word ridiculous hit the floor like broken glass. Sarah did not cry. She just stepped back, as if retreating from a cliff edge. The next morning, she met Alicia Grant, a family lawyer downtown. Alicia's office was warm, lined with New England landscapes, her oak desk neat. A photo of her with a curly-haired boy, probably her son, framed beside a box of tissues. We will go steady and careful, Alicia said in her calm voice. In Massachusetts, the court always prioritizes the child's best interest. Proof of infidelity matters, but it is just one part. What matters most is Emma's stability, safety, and which parent provides that. Sarah's fingers twisted together. He will fight. David hates losing. He is controlling. You mentioned the trust fund in Emma's name. Sarah's chest tightened. 3 years earlier, at David's insistence, they had created a trust in Emma Renee Miller's name. The house itself had been moved into the trust, David claiming it was tax planning and protecting assets for the child. Sarah had agreed, partly out of trust, partly out of exhaustion. She had signed the documents without reading too closely. If guardianship of the trust is tied to custody, Alicia explained, then his motive to win custody grows. She slid a folder towards Sarah. I will need every piece of evidence, texts, emails, financial records, anything you can legally access. But remember this. Never badmouth David to Emma. Courts watch very carefully for parental alienation. Sarah sighed, fear crawling up like shadows under the bed. I do not want Emma stuck between us. But David, he is such a good actor. To everyone else, he is the perfect husband, perfect father. Alicia smiled. Not a soothing smile, but one of confidence. We do not need to act. We need the truth. Saturday night, Emma sprawled on the living room rug coloring. Sarah sat across, pretending to read, but sneaking glances at her daughter. On the TV, a cooking show murmured softly. They were used to evenings alone. David was often busy. Mom, is Dad coming to the open house on Monday? Emma asked without looking up. Sarah lowered her book. I will ask him, but... You know how busy he gets? She forced her voice steady, though tears prickled. I will be there, for sure. Emma's crayon paused. I want both of you there. My friends, parents both come. She added a blue hemline to the paper doll's dress, then whispered, Ms. Lindsay says families can be different, but kids can still be happy. I do not know if that is true. Sarah slid down onto the rug beside her. She is right. And I promise, no matter what happens, I will do everything I can to make you happy. She touched Emma's shoulder gently. Now, tell me about that science project. Emma launched into the story of her baking soda volcano, the vinegar smell, Ben shouting, boom, in class. Sarah laughed along, her heart catching the light of her daughter's smile. That night, after Emma was asleep, Sarah locked herself in the bathroom, turned on the noisy fan, and cried into a towel. In the mirror, her eyes were tired, fine lines creasing at the corners. You will get through this, she told her reflection. For Emma, her phone buzzed. A message from David. I hear you have seen a lawyer. If you want war, I will give you war. I won't let you take Emma from me. I have proof you are unstable. Think carefully. Sarah slumped against the tile wall, cold seeping into her spine. Unstable. He meant the times she would wept in the kitchen, the sleepless nights gaslighting, Alicia had called it. She snapped a screenshot and emailed it to herself, filing it in a folder labeled Court. On Monday morning, Sarah bundled into a heavy coat, walked Emma to school. Her daughter hugged her tightly at the classroom door, ponytail bouncing as she ran inside. Posters read, Welcome Families. A donation box for the library project sat by the hall. Sarah slipped in a $5 bill, small but a gesture of normalcy. At home, she bought binders and a hardback notebook. She built a spreadsheet. Times David spent with Emma. Missed open houses, threatening texts, suspicious receipts. Alicia had said, old records, new records, everything can be evidence. By noon, she dug through a box labeled Taxes 2016 to 2020 in the basement. Inside, files stacked neatly, David's signature control. She photographed expenses marked vaguely. Extended stay lodging, special client dinner, premium wine. One document made her palms sweat. Addendum to Trust Emma R. Miller Trust, Guardian Authority. David's signature bold, hers faint, trailing. She remembered that night, Emma feverish, David shoving papers at her. Just a technical update. She had believed him. The sound of a car outside made her jump. Through the curtain, she saw David staring at the little wooden sign on the porch. Home is where the heart is. His smile was thin, eyes cold. He unlocked the door with his key. You need to call first, Sarah said, stiff. This is my daughter's house. I have every right to come in. I will let Alicia sort that out. David's gaze swept the room. The wedding photo, Emma's drawing, the envelope on the table. You are making this ugly. I will get custody. You work part-time. You do not understand finances. Emma needs stability. She needs honesty, Sarah said. His laugh was sharp. You think a court will believe you over me? I have lawyers. I have witnesses. Remember the night you smashed a bowl in the kitchen? One will tell them you are volatile. Sarah met his eyes. That was the night I found out you were with someone else. No one's perfect, but some people are decent. She opened the door. Emma's getting out of school soon. I do not want her seeing this. David hesitated, then walked out. Before the door shut, he hissed, I won't lose. Not this time. Sarah leaned against the wood, her heart pounding like a hammer. Yet she was not trembling. She saw the road ahead, hard, rocky, but the only road forward. That night, she labeled her new notebook, Truth. On the first page she wrote, Things not to say in front of Emma. She listed, "Do not call David names, do not show texts, do not mention the trust." She taped another note to her mirror, "Breathe. Sleep. Eat." Before bed, she checked on Emma. The girl lay curled around her teddy bear, nightlight stars scattering across the walls. Sarah stroked her hair, whispering, "I am here." In the quiet Maplebridge house, the heater hummed. A train wailed faintly in the distance. Sarah imagined the courtroom, solemn, cold. She pictured Emma swinging her legs on a hallway bench, waiting, and she pictured herself not cornered but stepping forward. At 11:11, she went to the kitchen, picked up the envelope, and signed, Sarah L. Miller. The pen did not shake. She did not know what the future would bring, but she knew this: a new life had begun. Outside, the last yellow leaves tumbled. On the fridge, Emma's turkey drawing quivered but clung tight to the heart-shaped magnet. Sarah knew Emma would grow up with scars. But scars, she thought, could be the strongest part once healed. Chapter 2. The legal battle begins. On the first day of the custody hearing at Suffolk County Family Court in Boston, the sky was heavy and gray, rain falling in thin streaks. Sarah walked up the courthouse steps, her coat pulled tightly around her, Alicia Grant at her side in a sharp gray suit, carrying a thick case file. "Take it step by step," Alicia said firmly. "Don't look at David too much. Keep your eyes on the judge when you answer." Sarah nodded, though her stomach churned. She had barely slept the night before. Every time she closed her eyes, David's face appeared in the dark kitchen, his words echoing, "I won't lose." Not this time. The courtroom was small but austere. On the raised bench sat Judge Eleanor Parker, a woman in her 60s with neatly tied silver hair and round glasses. Known for her firmness and fairness, she was respected in the county. Across the aisle, David sat in a navy suit and deep red tie. Beside him was Michael Harper, a seasoned attorney, famous in the local press for twisting the tide in messy divorces. Sarah glanced at David. He looked calm, even smug, as if certain of the outcome. Emma was not there. Children were usually spared from custody hearings. Still, Sarah's chest tightened at the thought of her daughter knowing her parents were battling each other in this very room. "Your Honor," Harper began smoothly, "the petitioner, Mr. David Miller, will demonstrate that he is the more financially stable parent, capable of providing Emma Miller with a better environment for growth. We will show that Mrs. Sarah Miller displays signs of emotional instability, poor financial management, and cannot provide long-term stability for the child." Sarah clenched her fists, blood pounding in her temples. Alicia merely scribbled notes, calm. When it was her turn, Alicia rose. "We will show that Mrs. Sarah Miller is a devoted mother, Emma's primary caregiver, and her emotional anchor. We will also present Mr. David Miller's lack of transparency in his finances and personal life, which may negatively affect the child's well-being." The judge's gavel tapped lightly. The hearing had begun. Harper's first witness was David's sister, Karen. She testified that Sarah was often emotional and had cried many times when David was away. "Did you ever worry that Emma witnessed her mother in an unstable emotional state?" Harper pressed. Karen nodded, feigning pity. "Yes, I think it affected Emma." Sarah wanted to leap up and shout, but Alicia's hand on her arm kept her still. "Wait for your turn." When Alicia cross-examined, her voice was even. "Karen, you mentioned David's business trips. Did you know that during some of those trips he was actually with another woman? Were you aware that Sarah was caring for Emma alone during those periods?" Karen faltered, her face flushing. Harper objected. "Irrelevant." "Overruled," Judge Parker said. "Continue. Can you name one time when Sarah neglected Emma or failed to care for her?" Alicia pressed. Karen was silent for several seconds, then shook her head. "No further questions." Alicia sat down, a flicker of triumph in her eyes. When Sarah herself took the stand, her legs felt like stone. Harper wasted no time. "Mrs. Miller, is it true you once smashed a bowl in the kitchen, in front of your husband and daughter?" Sarah drew in a breath. "Yes, but So it is true you lost control of your emotions and displayed violent behavior in the home, Harper cut in, sharp as a blade. Sarah forced herself to look directly at Judge Parker. That night I had just discovered my husband was unfaithful. I smashed a bowl into the sink. I never directed violence at anyone. I have never harmed my daughter. Harper smirked. Even one moment of losing control is a risk, is not it? Alicia was on her feet. Objection argumentative. Sustained, Judge Parker said, gavel tapping. Harper retreated, his jaw tight. Alicia stepped forward gently. Mrs. Miller, has Emma ever been harmed by you, physically or emotionally? Never, Sarah said firmly. Emma is my entire world. And who takes Emma to school, to her open houses, to the doctor when she is sick? I do, almost always me. For the first time, Sarah saw a softness in Judge Parker's eyes. At lunch break, Sarah sat across from Alicia in a small cafe near the courthouse, her hands trembling around a steaming cup of tea. I am afraid. What if they believe David? Alicia rested her hand on the stack of files. Sarah, what we have, the financial records, the threatening texts, David's absentee record, we will present all of it. He is skilled at hiding, but the truth will surface. Sarah nodded, trying to smile. At the next table, a man laughed loudly with his coworkers, his joy echoing from another universe, a world without custody, battles, or children torn in half. That afternoon, Harper called another witness, a former employee of David's, who claimed Sarah was paranoid about her husband's fidelity. But when Alicia cross-examined, the witness admitted he had once received a private email from David inviting him to meet at Beacon Loft. The courtroom buzzed. Sarah caught Harper's face tighten, David's jaw clenched. For the first time, the facade cracked. As court adjourned near 5 of the clock, Sarah stood in the long hallway, a window at the far end casting pale winter light. She drew a breath. This would be long, painful, but she was no longer the trembling woman in the kitchen. She was a mother fighting for her daughter, and justice was beginning to tilt her way. Alicia joined her, adjusting her files. Tomorrow we will bring in our witnesses. And I think it is time to reveal David's financial secrets. Sarah nodded, eyes fixed on the gray sky beyond the window. For Emma, she thought. Only for Emma. Chapter 3. Emma's point of view. In her small bedroom upstairs, Emma sat at her white desk, a blue pencil pinched between her tiny fingers. In front of her was a pink notebook with a cat sticker on the corner. This was her diary, hidden in the drawer, something she never told her parents about. November 15th. Today I saw Mom crying in the kitchen. She said it was because of onions, but I know it was not. She does not even like onions. Dad did not have dinner with us again. I heard Mom on the phone with someone, her voice very small. I do not know why she has been sad so much lately. Emma set down the pencil and rested her chin on the desk. Outside the window, the red leaves had nearly fallen off the maple tree, only a few trembling in the wind. Tomorrow school would rehearse the Christmas concert, and she was excited, but she worried her mom and dad would not sit together like before. In her memory, family used to be like the picture hanging in the hallway. Dad in a suit, Mom in a blue dress, and her smiling in both their arms. But lately, that picture felt like a fairy tale. When they all sat down for dinner, the air was so heavy she wanted to cover her ears. One night, while Emma stacked Lego blocks, her parents' voices rose in the living room. The door was not fully shut, so the words slipped out. I can't believe you would bring that up, Dad's voice sharp and angry. I am not making it up. And I won't let you take Emma just to control the trust, Mom's voice shaking but firm. Emma hugged the Lego piece to her chest, her heart racing. Trust. What is that? She did not know the word, only that her own name was mixed in. It felt like being a ball yanked back and forth in a game she did not want to play. She picked up her pencil and wrote, Are they fighting because of me? I do not want either of them to lose. I just want them to stop. At school, Ms. Lindsay, her teacher, noticed Emma quieter than usual. One afternoon, she sat beside her on the playground bench. Emma, are you okay? You have been sitting alone a lot lately. Emma gripped her backpack strap. My mom and dad, they are busy with stuff. Miss Lindsay nodded kindly. You know, whatever's happening with your parents, it is not your fault. You are still the wonderful Emma I see every day. The words felt like a blanket pulled over her trembling heart. But later that evening, when she saw her mom bent over piles of papers at the kitchen table, the coldness returned. One time, Dad picked Emma up from school. The SUV smelled of leather and cologne. He smiled, but it looked tight. Want some ice cream? Just us, he said. Emma nodded, trying to be cheerful. They went to a shop by the lake. As she ate her vanilla cone, Dad watched her closely. Sweetheart, do you notice your mom being sad a lot? Crying sometimes. Emma hesitated, then slowly nodded. Dad patted her hair. I just want you to be somewhere more stable. You understand, right? She stared at the ice cream, which suddenly did not taste so good. She was scared that if she said the wrong thing, one of them would be angry. She wished she could vanish, melt away like sugar in the cone. That night she wrote, I do not want to choose. If I live with Mom, Dad will be sad. If I live with Dad, Mom will cry. I wish I had magic to make 2 Emmas, one for Mom, one for Dad. On Sunday, Mom took her to the park. Leaves piled high, and they jumped in together, laughter ringing like bells. For a moment, Emma forgot everything, and just felt the warmth of her mother's hand. On a bench, she leaned against Mom's shoulder. Are you scared? Mom asked softly. Emma was quiet. Then she whispered, I just want you and Dad not to hate each other. Mom hugged her tight, voice breaking. We do not hate each other. We just can't live together anymore. But we both love you. Emma closed her eyes and believed her. Still, inside was a hole, like a Lego piece missing. No matter how she tried to build, the wall was not complete. At the bottom of her diary page, Emma wrote, I wish the court was like my classroom. If 2 kids fight, Ms. Lindsay makes them hold hands and say sorry. I wish grown-ups listen to the teacher too. She tucked the notebook into the drawer. In the living room, the phone rang, Dad's voice on the answering machine. Alicia can't save you, Sarah. Emma crawled under the blanket, clutching her teddy bear. Her small heart raced, but Ms. Lindsay's words echoed in her head. It is not your fault. And Emma whispered into the dark, Please do not make me choose. Chapter 4. The Secrets Revealed. On the 3rd morning of the hearing, the courthouse hallway buzzed with footsteps. Sarah sat beside Alicia, clutching her purse tightly. Her heart pounded as if she were about to run a marathon. She knew today was important, the day many truths would surface. David entered, his pinstripe suit flawless, his expression calm. But Sarah noticed the dark circles under his eyes, the stiffness of his jaw. Beside him, Harper shuffled a thick stack of files, clearly preparing a knockout punch. The first witness Alicia called was Rachel Collins, a former employee of David's firm. She was around 30, blonde hair tied back, nervous but resolute. Miss Collins, Alicia began, can you tell us why you left Miller & Associates? Rachel swallowed. I discovered Mr. David Miller was using company accounts to pay for things unrelated to business. When I asked, he said they were client expenses. But I know that is not true. I was once asked to book a room at Beacon Loft. There were no clients there. Only him and a woman. The courtroom buzzed. Harper jumped up. Objection, hearsay. Alicia produced a printed email Rachel had received. Please book Loft, June 12th. Bring red wine. Keep quiet. Judge Parker frowned. Admitted into evidence. Sarah trembled. Everything she had suspected was now read aloud for all to hear. Next came Megan, Sarah's close friend. She recounted the night Sarah discovered the affair, and David threatened to take Emma. He said, I have money, I have lawyers, I will make sure Emma stays with me and you will have nothing. Sarah was shaking like she might collapse. I have never seen her so terrified. Harper objected again. Speculative, emotional. The judge only scribbled notes, not dismissing it. Then Alicia stepped forward with a larger blow. Your Honor, we present financial statements from Miller & Associates over the past 3 years. On the screen, the expenditures appeared. Luxury retreat, Vermont, $4.800. Another line, wine cellar, $2.300. Again and again, beacon loft, $1, $201, $500. Mr. Miller used company funds for personal purposes, Alicia declared. This is not just infidelity. This is financial misconduct, undermining the stable environment he claims to provide for Emma. Harper tried to defend. These are legitimate, client-building expenses. His business requires. Then name one client who attended at Beacon Loft on those dates, Alicia cut in. Silence. Harper looked at David. David's jaw tightened, his eyes flashing. When David himself was called, Alicia asked directly, Mr. Miller, can you state under oath that you never committed adultery during your marriage? David inhaled, then answered, I had relationships, but they never affected my ability to be a father. The courtroom erupted in whispers. Sarah closed her eyes, a strange relief flooding her. Finally, he admitted it. And do you believe, lying to your wife and child, hiding finances, renting secret apartments to meet mistresses, do you believe that constitutes a stable environment for Emma? Alicia pressed. David stayed silent, his jaw rigid. Answer the question, Judge Parker ordered. No, he muttered. At recess, Sarah sat in the hallway, her chest still hammering. Alicia leaned close. We just took a huge step. He admitted it. Through the glass window, Sarah watched taxis splash through the rain. She knew the battle was not over, but the wall of lies had cracked wide open. In her mind, Emma's words returned, I do not want to choose. And Sarah whispered to herself, You won't have to. I will protect you. Chapter 5. The Courtroom Climax. That morning, the courtroom was more crowded than usual. Not only local reporters always eager for custody battles involving money, but also curious townspeople filled the benches. Sarah walked in, her pulse racing, though her gaze no longer wavered. She knew David would not surrender without a fight. David sat across the aisle, still polished in a navy suit and red tie, but Sarah noticed the bags under his eyes, the stiffness in his posture. Beside him, Harper stacked a thick binder, clearly hiding a last weapon. After preliminaries, Harper stood tall, voice ringing. Your Honor, the petitioner has new evidence proving Mrs. Sarah Miller is unfit to parent. We present her medical records. The large screen lit up. A note appeared. Patient Sarah Miller. Diagnosis, postpartum depression, symptoms of insomnia and anxiety, 2017. Gasps rippled across the room. Sarah froze. Her chest caved. She remembered it vividly, those dark months after Emma's birth, when exhaustion hollowed her. She had sought therapy, taken medication briefly, and recovered. But Harper's voice sharpened the old wound. Mrs. Miller required treatment for depression, he declared. She displayed emotional instability. Entrusting Emma to her would endanger the child's long-term mental well-being. Sarah's throat burned. She wanted to scream that she had never failed Emma, that she had healed. But Alicia rose calmly. Your Honor, we do not deny the record, but let us be clear. Postpartum depression is common. What matters is Mrs. Miller sought help, complied with treatment, and fully recovered. This does not prove weakness. It proves responsibility. Furthermore, we have a professional witness to confirm this. The courtroom door opened. Dr. Julia Hernandez, Sarah's former therapist, walked in. On the stand, Dr. Hernandez spoke firmly. Mrs. Sarah Miller came to me after childbirth with insomnia and anxiety. She adhered to therapy. She never expressed intent to harm herself or her baby. Within 6 months, symptoms subsided. After a year, she was fully stable. Today, she presents no mental condition that would interfere with parenting. Alicia asked, Doctor, would you say Mrs. Miller demonstrated responsibility by seeking professional help? Absolutely, Dr. Hernandez replied. That shows commitment to her own health and her child's well-being. Harper tried to interrupt, but history is history. Judge Parker's gavel cracked. Mr. Harper, history does not equal permanent instability. Proceed. David's jaw clenched, fury flashing in his eyes. Sarah's tears welled, but this time, they were tears of relief. Then Alicia unveiled another witness. Your Honor, we also call Thomas Reed, former accountant at Miller & Associates. An older man with graying hair took the stand. He testified that David ordered him to adjust books, hide income, and funnel money into an account in Delaware under Emma's trust. In truth, Reed said, the trust was not solely for Emma. It was a way for David to dodge taxes and retain control. I resigned because I refused to sign false reports. The room fell silent. Only the judge's pen scratched across her pad. Harper rose halfway but had nothing to say. David's mask of control cracked. His fists tightened, his posture stiff. The image of the flawless father collapsed. As the day closed, Judge Parker folded her notes. We will reconvene for a final decision next week. Let me be clear. The child's best interest is paramount. I have heard substantial testimony and evidence. A ruling will follow. The gavel struck. Sarah sat frozen, her heart hammering, yet lighter than before. She did not know the final outcome, but she knew this, the truth had broken through. She was no longer the trembling woman cornered in her own kitchen. She was a mother fighting with everything she had. Out in the hallway, Alicia smiled faintly, touching Sarah's shoulder. Next time is the conclusion. Prepare yourself. Emma will be where she belongs. Sarah nodded, eyes bright. She saw Emma running through the park in her mind, ponytail swinging, free from the burden of choosing, and she swore she would make that vision real. Chapter 6. The Final Verdict. On the day of the ruling, the Boston sky was gray and heavy. The first snow of the season fell gently, like torn white paper. Sarah walked through the courthouse doors, clutching her gloves tightly. Beside her, Alicia Grant wore her usual calm expression, though her eyes gleamed with confidence. David was already inside. His black suit was immaculate, his face a mask of stone. Harper leaned close to whisper strategies, but Sarah saw only emptiness in David's eyes. Inside the courtroom, the air was so tense it felt like no one dared to breathe. Judge Eleanor Parker sat high on the bench, stacks of files before her. Her silver hair shone under the white lights as she scanned the room. This case is not only a divorce, she began. It is the determination of custody over an 8-year-old girl. The court's sole priority is the best interest of Emma Miller. Silence. Everyone leaned forward. Judge Parker continued. Mrs. Sarah Miller has been Emma's primary caregiver, ensuring her schooling, her health, and her emotional stability. Though she once suffered postpartum depression, credible medical testimony confirms she recovered fully and demonstrates responsibility. Mr. David Miller, however, admitted to infidelity and has shown patterns of financial misconduct, including misuse of a trust fund under Emma's name. Her voice was steady, absolute. For these reasons, the court awards sole custody to Mrs. Sarah Miller. Mr. David Miller shall retain visitation rights under a set schedule, but all major decisions concerning the child rest with Mrs. Miller. The gavel struck once, sharp and final. Sarah's breath escaped in a sob. Tears blurred her vision, but she felt Alicia's reassuring hand on hers. Across the aisle, David sat frozen, lips pressed tight, his shoulders slumped in silent defeat. Sarah did not look back again. She rose, walked out into the cold winter light. On the courthouse steps, Emma waited with Megan. Her red coat stood out against the snow, a teddy bear clutched in her arms. When she saw her mother, Emma ran forward and threw herself into Sarah's embrace. "Mom, can we go home now?" she whispered. Sarah hugged her tightly, tears wetting Emma's hair. "Yes, sweetheart. We are going home." Weeks later, life slowly regained rhythm. Sarah and Emma decorated a Christmas tree in their living room. Golden lights twinkled against the green branches. Gifts tucked under the tree. "Mom," Emma asked shyly, "can we invite Dad for Christmas dinner?" Sarah paused, then smiled softly. "If you want to, we will, as long as you feel comfortable, and I will be right there with you." Emma nodded, eyes shining with relief. In that moment, Sarah realized victory was not about defeating David. It was about protecting Emma's childhood, her sense of safety, her right to be loved without condition. The court had given Sarah custody, but her bond with Emma had always been the true verdict. Outside, snow fell thicker, blanketing the cracks of the street. Inside, the house glowed with light, laughter, and the quiet promise Sarah carried: Emma will grow up safe, loved, and free from the battles of adults,